that you can't mix business and pleasure when it comes to outside working activities. Why is that? Well, maybe we're a little bit embarrassed about what we're doing, or maybe we feel that what we're doing outside of work can't help us progress in our job or our career. Well, to that, I disagree. You can mix business and pleasure if you're smart about it. We all probably want to have that feeling at times where we're on the beach and maybe doing a little bit of work, or have our work feel like it's on a permanent vacation. Well, I'm going to share this idea or my experiences mixing the two together with my STEM hobby that I do outside of work with a non-STEM job working in the consumer packaged goods industry as a sales and sales manager. Putting those two together, having an enhanced quality of life, and having a fun time and experience going through it. So you're probably all wondering, what is this STEM hobby that you have? It is high power rocketry. Couldn't bring this one today, but I brought a smaller version of it. But people still know, and I still have that day-to-day job as being in the sales world. And you better believe that people on both sides, for my high power rocket hobby and people at work, know that I do each of those. I was introduced to this high power rocket hobby at a very young age, and wow, when it was introduced to me, I was just mesmerized by it. All the different things that you can do with the hobby, the variables, and I'm sure we all probably remember when we were all real little in the classroom, what would you all like to be when you grow up? Hey, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a police officer. I was doing this. Hey, I want to be an astronaut. And everyone's like, okay, calm down, space cadet. But I still really had interest in really pursuing this hobby. And this was going to be my STEM stuff that was going to go through that. And I liked it because it wasn't because the high power rocketry hobby was easy. It was hard and had a lot of variables. And sometimes that doesn't always go that way. Here's one of my rockets that didn't go so well. So that's a 8-foot tall rocket, weighed 60 pounds. That motor produced 4,500 pounds of thrust, and the rocket disintegrated at about 2,600 miles an hour. So yeah, that was a tough loss to take. But it was still, I liked this hobby. I still wanted to pursue it. So you see, what is high power rocketry hobby? You can do stuff like that, add a bowling ball and fly a rocket. I took an industrial wire spool, put a motor up the middle, and flew that one successfully. There's one that's got a bunch of lights and is fully lit, and I can fly it at nighttime. Here's one that's actually remote controlled. So it goes up on a rocket motor, and then you remote control it back. That's actually one of my friend's rockets out of Texas. And the basic definition of high power rocketry, as long as it weighs just over 5 ounces or the rocket motor produces more than 36 pounds of force, that is what a high power rocket is in its most basic form. So this rocket may look really small to you, but the motor goes all the way up to the top and it produces more than 36 pounds of force. So as I was getting ready to go down that path of I'm going to be an aerospace engineer, I'm going to be an astronaut, and all that, this was around the time of the recession, and I was really dejected that I don't think there's going to be jobs out there. From networking with a lot of different people in the high-power rocketry community, whether it was the local clubs or the national clubs, I noticed a lot of people had contractor-style work or didn't have jobs that they felt very comfortable about, or not jobs that were really out there. So I completely made a change and went down the business route, because I wanted to be able to continue to fly these rockets. As they started to get bigger and bigger, they got much more expensive. So I wanted a nice steady career so I could continue to have this hobby as a lot of fun. But what I realized early on when I was in college, that this is something I can offer back to the high power rocketry community, being a business student. Like, hey, I took a finance course, maybe I can help the local club out and step up and be the treasurer for the local club. And when I did that, everyone thought, oh, that's a really good idea, because our community of people in the industry, we're a little different. We're eclectic, eccentric. Why is there a woman sitting in the back of the car, looks to be out in the middle of nowhere, wearing goggles, and it's not windy? Don't know. I can poke fun at her. That's my mom. But we can do stuff like that. I mean, it's just like, it's interesting. So I had this kind of business mindset that I could take over into the high-power rocketry community, and I saw that it was working. Then when I was coming out of college, I had to go get a job. I had to grow up and get ready to go out into the working world. Well, I wasn't sure what to put on my resume, because you got to find ways to set yourself apart from other students coming out of college. So I decided I'm going to put right on there for leadership skills that I was the club treasurer for the local club, and I also stepped up and certified the really big rockets to help people out when they really wanted to fly the big ones. So I put that right on my resume. top and bottom there. I did a call out, and that made myself very marketable to a lot of companies, and I was able to land that job. So I thought, yes, I made it. Now I can go out there and fly some big rockets again. So I took another shot. So that one that crashed earlier, did it again, and this time it was successful. So that time I got it up to 1,700 miles an hour with a perfect recovery. Then after I recovered it, burned off the paint, had some battle scars because it was flying so fast, I was really excited. But then as I'm going into the working world, I really didn't want to give up my hobby. It felt like my child to me. I didn't want to let it go. But I had to grow up. But I thought, well, what if I took the best of both worlds? This high-power rocket hobby and this consumer packaged goods company and sales that I was now working for, what if I put those two together? So what I did is I went to my boss and said, hey, I would like to outfit this rocket with the company brand. Okay, that's a little different. And my boss thought, well, we're not in the rocket business or have nothing to do with it. But, well, I know people at work know that you build these high-power rockets because it was on your resume and a few people at work knew about it. So I said, you need to go talk to other people about getting that approved. So I had to make that cautious walk down to legal. Being in sales, I don't want to go see legal. No one wants to go see them. It's like, I'm going to open up Pandora's box now, and the people in legal are great. But pitching this idea to them, hey, I want to outfit a high-power rocket with the company logo. Oh, okay. Well, these rockets seem to be dangerous. They can be squirrely. They can go up and they can go down. They can crash. They can blow up. Are you trying to get paid to do this? Once I eased them a little bit and explained that we're very safe. I don't need money for this. I just want to do this out of goodness in my heart. I wanted to be able to get the brand properly so I could outfit it correctly. And I acted with the best respect for the hobby and for my work to put the two together. So they were like, all right, let's go for it. So once they approved me to do that, I outfitted the rocket, and people loved it. People at work thought it was great. People in the high-power rocketry community thought it was something neat as well. And I noticed that this could help out in other forms when I was starting to mix the two together. I could see that one was feeding off another. When I first got into the job being in sales, I wasn't very comfortable communicating. I got through college okay, but I wasn't very comfortable with communication. So what I did is I went back to my high-power rocket hobby, and I stepped up and was the person at the local clubs that would be the MC, the person on the microphone, to help increase my confidence in communication. So I could speak to everyone out at the range. I could help correct the range and all that, and then launch the rockets as they're going off. Well, I took those increased skills and took that back to work, and I could see that my communications were increasing and my confidence was increasing, and people at work noticed that. Well, then I took my increased business acumen from work, put that back over into my high-power rocketry hobby, and took additional leadership skills within the rocket organization so they could see that those were feeding off of one another. Then I took that increased leadership from the high-power rocket hobby to use that as ways to leverage myself for future opportunities within the organization I worked for. It wasn't the reason I was getting promoted, but it's a little caveat to say, hey, it's doing something a little different on top of performing well, that I could be ready to take on more responsibility. So other idea is setting yourself apart from your competitors in twofold. So one with my customers, so people that I work with or my customers know I have this hobby, that I have a little bit of extra time to talk with them and just keep them away from my competitors and build that connection with them. Like, hey, there is more to Gerald than just working and selling product. And then I also used it for my coworkers. My coworkers are great, but you got to find a way to set yourself apart for promotions or responsibilities. This is a cool fact. A CNN 2014 Money article stated 74% of STEM college graduates go into a non-STEM job. So it's interesting. So a lot of people that have that STEM background, I'm going to say I do because I am full-fledged in this high-power rocket hobby, and it challenges me quite a bit. But I'm in a non-STEM job. And people will come up to me at work and say, so what's your take on Mars? I'm like, well, I'm not the Mars expert. I fly a high-power rocket hobby. And then the comment back was, well, you're the closest person that's ever flown it in our company. I'm like, well, I guess 30,000 feet is a lot closer than zero. So yeah, those ways to set yourself apart. Another idea is this building this brand. So building my personal brand. So I talked about how I built this company-themed rocket, and I successfully flew it multiple times across the country. Well, I was made aware that the company was outfitting a new museum, and I thought, well, that'd be cool if I donated this rocket to the museum. And they thought, that's a great idea. Even though our company has nothing to do with this high-power rocketry, they were ecstatic to have that. So that helped build my brand. So people knew about me instantly within the company. Hey, there's a guy that's built this rocket and flew it and donated it. And that helped set myself apart. Another one is this networking. It's helped expand my network by having the two best of both worlds. I've been lucky to be able to move around a little bit with my work. So when I go into a new market, I've got a bunch of new rocket friends immediately, and they are very welcoming when I come in a new area. But additionally, from the work side, I could see that when I come in a new area, people automatically knew me or someone knew of me to help start that conversation and made it much more comfortable. I love to hear that quote, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Well, having this high-power rocketry hobby helped out quite a bit. And being able to progress within the company, I could build bigger, funner rockets like this one. So you can see that's just over 11 feet tall. Don't blink. So that rocket is 11 feet tall, weighs 112 pounds on the launch pad. There's another angle of it. And this last camera angle, we're actually going to take a ride inside the rocket now. So like I said, just over 11 feet tall, weighs 112 pounds on the launch pad. This motor produces almost 7,000 pounds of thrust. The motor weighs 30 pounds and burns it all in 1.32 seconds. And that motor burns out at 500 feet and coasts to 30,000 feet. So think about those commercial jetliners. That rocket went pretty close to that. Now we have airspace approved, so we're not flying it near anything. And this is not spinning as bad as some of the other ones I've done. You'll get real sick in those ones, so this is actually pretty good. But I was able to continue to fly and have this big passion that I had because of my work. And then people now know that, hey, what's your next project, or what are you working on? Well, they wanted to see the videos. So think about that. When people say you got to keep business and pleasure separate, you can put them together. And people say, well, what are you going to do now? You've built a rocket, donate to the museum. Now I thought this idea of taking one of our consumer products, mixing it in with my next rocket motor. So going for kind of a different angle here, but why not? Let's keep going forward with it, see how far I can get along with the project. But I'm sure we all have something we do outside of work, and we've probably never mixed it in with what we're doing, or we've thought about doing something outside of work. Mix it in a little bit with your work and see what can come from that. You might have an enhanced quality of life or put you in contention for future promotions. Thank you for your time.